months, achieve a couple of these certifications, and then within 6 months again, he would accomplish another series of certifications. And within 9 months, he had it all done. So I knew right then, I thought, okay, we're going to be all right on this. So at that time, we developed a pretty aggressive education plan with him to get him on track to become a certified building official by June of 2019. And at that time, I told Cameron, I said, well, you know, this is pretty aggressive, but we'll revise it. So on June 26th of 2019, he achieved his certified building official on plan. So it was pretty cool. He had 22 ICC certifications he had to pass in doing that. And it's not an easy task to do it. And not a lot of the building officials here in Johnson County are even CBOs. So we're fortunate to have him. We wanted to recognize him for that achievement tonight and the effort he's made working in building inspections and other jobs as assigned, as we all do here in the city. I've been with the city almost 15 years as your building official. While I don't plan on retiring anytime soon, we did promote Cameron to the rank of a building official. So at this point, you got 2 building officials. And we're both kind of working together on that. I don't think we'll have any issues over the next period of time. I know that when I leave, you're going to be a whole lot better off than when I got here having Cameron at the helm. And I'm really proud to have had a small part in his accomplishments.
Congratulations, Cameron.
And Mike has a certificate, and we'll get it later.
Yeah, now Cameron wants to give a 15-minute speech on... Okay, we do need a picture.
Cameron has his wife, Marissa, here with him tonight. Yes. He didn't introduce her, but I want to.
Congratulations, Cameron.
Good job.
All right, our next item tonight is our consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approval of our minutes from our council meeting of August 15th and approval of pay ordinance number 861. Any questions or discussion about the consent agenda? If not, a motion, please.
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Lane.
You with us, Danny?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carried.
All right. Just touch and go there for a minute. Next is our call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. There's a 4-minute time limit. Please stand and be recognized. State your name and address. Anyone wish to address the council tonight?
I just got a quick deal. Has the council signed up for Chief Maxon yet? Or all beyond signed up?
For the airboat ride?
Yeah,
I think we've all responded.
okay.
Thank you.
Come on up here, guys.
Come on up.
Hi, my name is Colin. And my name is Maggie. We are a part of the Champlin family. I've been a DeSoto resident since I was 2 years old. And I moved here 2 years before my 4th birthday. We love living in DeSoto. However, there's a city law on the books that we would really like to see changed. That is City Ordinance, Chapter 2, Article 115, which limits the keeping of chickens to landowners with a minimum lot size of 1 acre. We have been wanting chickens for some time now and are aware of many people in our community that are keeping fowl in violation of the law.
However, we think it's important to obey the law.
So we are finally coming out of our shells and talking to our elected officials about what we see as an undue restriction on our right to pursue happiness.
We think that even homeowners with less than 1 acre should be able to have chickens if they wish, and believe a permit system similar to those written in the local laws in towns like Gardner, Eudora, Strawny, and Olathe would also be appropriate in our community.
Now we know that chickens have gotten a bad rap over all the years. After all, someone decided to call them fowl. That That's just not the best name to have if you want a positive PR.
However, don't let the chicken haters fool you, because having chickens can bring many benefits to the people in our city.
Like, who doesn't like eating fresh eggs, which might just improve public health and nutrition? If you end up eating too many eggs, well, then I guess your person might just have to share with your neighbors.
Most people think that chicken poo is a horrible thing, but did you know manure is considered excellent fertilizer?
As our family keeps a backyard garden, maybe our cucumbers will finally grow to full size next year.
Did you know that chickens are omnivores and will eat almost all chicken scraps, including meat scraps?
This would reduce the amount of food waste being thrown into garbage or down the drain. That would help alleviate some of the burden on our sanitation system.
Most of all, though, they make great pets and they help clean your yard of bugs.
They are fairly easy to take care of, and a hen's gentle cooing has been known to have a calming effect on many people.
Believe me, I need all the help I can get staying calm.
Dogs might be a man's best friend, but a hen is probably a family's greatest ally. We humbly petition our city council to do a review of Chapter 2, Article 115, and allow for landowners with lot sizes less than 1 acre to have access to the keeping friendly fowl.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions for these young?
Did we get name and address? We need to
Okay.
consult them on our discussions with chickens and ordinances.
We're Maggie and Colin, and we're part of Champlin family. We live 34570 West 85th Terrace, DeSoto, Kansas.
Can you say that slowly?
34570 West 85th Terrace, DeSoto, Kansas 66018.
That's perfect. Now we can get a hold of it.
Anyone else on call to public?
Hi, my name's Stan Nice. I live at 28557 West 88th Street. I'm honestly hoping that someone here has answers on where RG Fiber is. They were the council approved approved a lot of money to them, and they did a fair amount of work. I know that there was weather issues, but they pulled out of the city for almost 2 months. And I know they made a big splash about, hey, we're back today. It seems kind of, coincidental that it happens to be on a city council night. And it's right about the time when they're supposed to be done with their whole project. I know that my parents are currently in the process of moving into DeSoto and will be in that unserved area. And just kind of looking out to, I'd like to know if there's an update on where they're at and what the timeline's going to be.
Yeah, Stan, I can give you that detailed update if you want to come by my office tomorrow. Anytime you want to come by, I can tell you. Yes, RG pulled out of town for an unusual long amount of time. There's reasons for that. I can talk with you offline about that, but I can tell you they remain fully committed to fulfilling their contract with the city to the letter. And so, there were delays during the springtime, but I know it's frustrating when we have day after day and week after week of really nice weather and we don't see activity.
Well,
so they are committed to fulfilling their obligation.
did they fulfill their 6-month requirement for the conduit?
For the first service?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
As far as timing goes, they did my hookup week before last, so I know they were doing individual homeowner hookups within the last 2 weeks.
Okay. I'll come by and see you.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else under call to public? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the rest of our agenda. Number 3, old business. We have none, so we'll go to 4, new business. And the first item is to receive a presentation from Johnson County Stormwater Management Program.
Yes, Council, I'd like to introduce Lee Killenberger. He's with the Stormwater Management Program. Also here tonight is Brian Pedig, who's the Director of Public Works with Johnson County. Lee, I'll let you take the show here and talk
Okay.
about the new direction. Let me get your PowerPoint started here.
All right. Thank you for that introduction, Mike. And thank you, Council, for the opportunity to come present to you today. As Mike said, I work for the Johnson County Stormwater Management Program. And today we've, over the last 3 years, we've been going through some significant changes to our program that I wanted to give you guys a heads up on because it's going to be changing the way your city interacts with the Stormwater Management Program. So Brian and I have been going around the county giving this presentation to all the cities that will let us, so we appreciate your time tonight. For those of you, oops,
Is that thing working?
pointer works.
Oh, yeah.
All right, now I really messed it up. I just have to click through it.
I tested it really well this afternoon.
And it worked this afternoon.
The down button. I'm clicking the down button.
Okay, there we go. I'm sorry about
Just
that.
point at me. If that
Pointed at you? Oh, I was pointing at the screen. Maybe that didn't.
No, don't point that at me.
Okay.
Cause cancer.
So, for those of you that aren't familiar with the program, I'm going to give you just touch briefly on kind of the history of where we've come from. For those of you that haven't been participating, DeSoto has participated some in the past, but they haven't had a lot of participation. So I just wanted to give you a brief update. The program originated back in 1988 when the state legislature authorized counties to enact a sales tax. Actually, it was some city mayors, some cities council and mayors that went to the legislature to get this tax authorized. So we were responsible for it. We were the only county in Kansas to adopt it as well. So we've been collecting that tax since about 1990 when the Board of County Commissioners enacted it and when they created the Stormwater Management Program. Along with that, we have an advisory council which has one representative from each city. So the Stormwater Management Advisory Council, they recommend our expenditures to the Board of County Commissioners. So that is the relationship we've had, and it's worked well for the past 28 years, but it's been a while since we went back and looked at our policies and procedures and how we do business. So back in 2016, we talked to SMAC and we decided that it was time to go back and revisit what's the state of the practice of stormwater management. How should our program be evolving? So we undertook a strategic planning exercise back in 2016, and we've been working on implementation of that ever since. So some of that efforts are starting to come forth, and we're going to be seeing some of that now at the city level. So I wanted to come and give you a heads up on that.
It's the down arrow progresses through.
Oh,
we
there, see? Okay. Just to give credit to the folks that were on this committee, I included this slide here. They kind of oversaw the whole strategic plan, and it was really a great exercise to go through to somebody I don't think that as us working in city and county government get to do a lot, is to look at how our operations really work and how they could be modified and made better. So you'll notice on here, Mike was part of that steering team. So if you don't like anything I'm going to say tonight, you can blame him. But this exercise is really a four-part process. We did stakeholder input sessions where we talked to all the cities. What do they like about the program? What don't they like? We did a national benchmarking exercise where we looked at what other communities of our size and scale do for stormwater management, and then also we did a gap analysis. So what does our program provide today? What should we be providing? So that plan was formally adopted by the county in 2016. It really gave us our marching orders to work on changes to the program, and we've been working on that ever since. And also, but it just hasn't been us at Johnson County Public Works. We've incorporated all the cities that we could get involved in this and all the stakeholders, other stakeholders as well. So we've, what I'm presenting to you today is coming from a lot of hours and volunteer time to make what we think is going to be a pretty good program in the future. So, and those folks are listed here as well. So on to the changes that this is just a graphical representation of that timeline, I guess. So We adopted this plan in 2016. In 2017, we worked on the watershed organizational structure. We had subcommittees around the new types of projects we'll be funding. We've been finalizing that framework, and then finally in 2019, we're working on implementing the watershed organization. So those are shown onto the changes. In the past, the program was a city-initiated program. If you had a flooding problem in your city, you would the onus was on you to develop a solution to that problem, bring it to the county for consideration, and you were really confined within the constraints of your municipality to come up with that solution, even if the problem originated upstream. So there were some inherent flaws in that program. The city where the flooding problem was located was responsible for the full cost of that program of that project. Even upstream cities contributed to it. Also, vice versa, if you created a solution to a problem that downstream communities benefited from, they didn't have to participate in cost sharing. And also just the way stormwater management works and water flows downhill, just because you have the flooding problem exists in your city doesn't mean that that's necessarily what the solution should be. It may be upstream. Maybe a better or more cost-effective solution may be upstream. So one of the first changes and major changes to the program moving forward is we're going to be moving to a watershed organizational focus. So those are depicted here on this map. You can see how the county has been divided up based on the major watersheds. There's going to be six watershed organizations moving forward. And we really divided them up based on community characteristics, development patterns, common receiving waters, and so forth. So you'll see here on the next slide who this is the same information just in table format. The city of DeSoto, you're going to be in two watershed organizations, Captain Kill and the Cedar Mill Creek watershed organizations. And will be revised if your jurisdictional boundaries change. But that was the first main change to the program. Moving forward, we're going to be asking these watershed organizations to develop projects on a watershed scale. So, and we'll get into that a little bit more, what that might look like. So, types of projects. The remainder of the changes to the program are more programmatic in nature. The program has historically been focused solely on flood damage reduction or flood mitigation, specifically buildings and street flooding, and that will continue to be a main focus of the program moving forward, but we're also going to be looking at different opportunities that we can alleviate flooding in Johnson County. Specifically, we're looking at a standalone voluntary home buyout program, which we currently don't have. But we are changing the way and the points that we associate with flooding. So we're going to be emphasizing public safety, maybe more than private property damage, and those details are still being worked out. So in addition to flooding, though, we're also going to be taking a focus on water quality moving forward. In the past, we've funded some R&D projects. We've helped cities with their water quality permit requirements, but moving forward, and this is the shift nationally, it's better to preserve and protect what we have today and try to restore waters, and rather than wait for regulators to tell us what to do and what we have to do. So we're going to be incorporating water quality measures into our projects, things that can restore or impair our impaired streams and lakes, things that reduce stormwater runoff pollution, prevent stream bank erosion, and so forth. So the third type of project that we will be funding now in the future is going to be system replacement. This is entirely new to our program, but it was one of probably the highest need that we identified from our local communities is just the infrastructure that's been in the ground in Johnson County. We're starting to see major failures of it. So when it rains in an older if you have older infrastructure, there's sinkholes forming, and cities are playing catch up trying to go out and address that. So we're stepping in not only with helping cities replace their system, but also getting out there and assessing the condition of it and inspecting it. So moving forward, we feel that's going to bring a lot more communities to the table for assistance and help a greater number of Johnson County residents. So system management, and finally the fourth area that the program is changing in, and that's going to be stepping up our planning efforts. I mentioned before that the onus was on the cities to really do the upfront planning and bring forth projects. Now that we're moving to a watershed scale, that's really beyond the scope of any one city. So we will be taking more of a lead role in the planning. Specifically, we're doing watershed master planning now. We just initiated some master planning exercises. DeSoto will be a participant in that and be able to feed your information to the overall master plan so we can see what your issues are, what you're facing, what opportunities exist in your city. So that kind of rounds out the whole types of projects we're funding. Here's just a to from slide. On the left, you can see where the program has been. We were very focused on local projects. We had a year-to-year plan. There were some inherent problems with that. And then also, you'll see here kind of some funding level splits. So before, it was a 75% county-funded project, 25% match to the city for flood damage reduction only. Over here on the right, you can see we are doing 50% cost share for system replacement projects. There'll be tiered funding for flood damage reduction. We'll have some projects may warrant 100% county funding. They're just that important, or they may be that beneficial to the county that the committees felt that there should be some projects that split jurisdictional boundaries, or for some reason the county should be involved and fund those at 100%. Other projects that we're dropping to 50% cost share, the more minor or lesser flooding projects. And then finally, same cost share split on water quality improvement projects. And finally, the last thing I'll emphasize is we've always been the alternative funding source for the cities. We provide the 75% share. We have not done a good job of leveraging the $17 million that the tax generates and going out and leveraging that with more state, federal programs, bringing in FEMA dollars, Corps of Engineer dollars. So that's going to also be a focus of the program moving forward, is trying to leverage our county match with the city match and also with outside funding sources. So next steps, I mentioned the watershed organizations. They shouldn't be called boards here. They're not a legal board. We're not creating any other jurisdictional. There are just organizations. Forthcoming to you will be an agreement to sign on to join your watershed organization. Those will be happening here in the next month or so. The master planning that I mentioned is going to be ongoing for the next 12 to 15 months. Those plans are going to be underway. And then finally, some major revisions to our policies and procedures that the city reps on SMAC will approve, and then ultimately our Board of County Commissioners will approve. And there may be a revised or restated interlocal agreement at some point in the future. So with that, I will stop and ask to see if there's any questions you guys have.
Question.
Lee, could you, just in general terms, how much funding is available through the SMAC program on a yearly basis, just to kind of get a sense of the scope of the program?
Right. So, like I mentioned, the program's, and we're in our 28th year now. Since its inception, has generated about $270 million over the past 28 years, and we've leveraged an additional, I think, $90 million from the cities. So, total investment in stormwater management of $360 million over the last 28 years. So we generate, currently, it fluctuates with sales in the county, but I think we're anticipated to generate about $17 million in 2020 is what our budget is. You'll see that we have an array of projects now moving forward, and how the amount that we devote to funding water quality or system management or flooding is yet to be determined, but there'll be a suite of pots of money, I think, that go towards those efforts moving forward.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted Lee and Brian here tonight to give this presentation is because it looks likely that there will be a kind of a brand new interlocal agreement. Yeah. Currently, DeSoto is a participant in the current program through an interlocal agreement, and this is a broad enough change. There will be another one later on this fall. So before you have that in front of you, I wanted you to kind of get the background on what the changes are and what they mean for us. Really specifically, DeSoto, with the current program, it really is just a flood reduction program. And it's a competitive base. You submit your project and they score it and rank it on a competitive base. And a big part of the scoring matrix is property damage from flooding. So DeSoto, even though we're at the bottom of 3 major drainage basins, we really don't have a whole lot of property damage caused by flooding. Mm-hmm. And so as a result, we've not been really able to take advantage of the program like other cities have. Also, our projects to alleviate the type of flooding we have would be massive. We're talking about rerouting Kill Creek and things like that. So we just haven't been able to fit that square peg in that square hole to take advantage. With the new program, specifically with the system management part of it, I think it just opens that door for us now to become more, take more advantage, become more involved in the whole process.
Are we responsible to do our own system assessment then, or is that part of the grant program that we'd be allowed? Do we?
You at a minimum, you need to go out and geographically locate your system.
Yep.
Once you've done that, once you've mapped your system, you're eligible for assessment cost share. So you can hire a vendor or in-house staff if you have qualified staff. We'll cost share with you on doing the condition assessment.
Condition assessments.
Once you have your system assessment done, then you qualify for replacement dollars.
Okay, where are we at in that process?
Yeah, so we've got probably a little over half of our system. We've got a decent handle on the enclosed storm sewer system in the more urban area. Where we're lacking are all these little culverts and ditches out in the rural areas. We don't have a whole lot of that. So we've been chipping away at that a little bit. And we may have to hire some outside help to get that, just to get it mapped, just to get an inventory.
Yeah.
And then we'll start with the inspections. And so the inspections will be the justifications for it. System management dollars. So that's where we are with it. I think we have the tools we need, with the GIS stuff we have in-house to do that.
Yeah.
It's just a workload issue for us currently.
Okay. What's the status of current policy information regarding flood management in DeSoto? Because I seem to remember from my planning commission era, probably mid 2000s, we worked on a flood mitigation plan.
Yeah.
What's the current status of how we're assessing our flood threat or stormwater damage potential?
Yeah, so we're still full members of the National Flood Insurance Program. So we have a whole section in our code that addresses floodplain development, and that's worked into our development code from a flood risk mitigation standpoint. Beyond that, that's kind of where we are.
I think a big part of what we did then was the adoption of the new floodplain maps.
Well, that
right?
was all triggered by the new watershed study. It was done in 2009 when half of the meadows went in the flood.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm remembering. So that's still the state of the art, if you will, of our risk or our status with flood potential.
These flood studies, correct
Go
me
beyond that. They're going to build on those. Yes. And those we have had and still have some of the most sophisticated floodplain maps in the country. So, and they forecasted future development conditions as well. So those are still current, effective maps. So those are definitely still relevant today. But the master plans that we're talking about will go into even more detail, I think, on identification of flooding problems and potential opportunity areas for solutions. So.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian. Number B, consider an ordinance annexing 5.8 acres of land at the southwest corner of Kill Creek Road and 95th Street.
Yes, Council. Before you have a request from Mr. Jerome Berman, who is in the audience tonight. He recently purchased there's actually two parcels that are just outside the city limits, and he wants to reconfigure them in a way that both have access to a public street. Right now, one of those parcels is landlocked away from 95th and away from Kill Creek. The other one has frontage on both. So, and this is my rendition of what I believe his intent is. He'd like to readjust that lot line between them so that both of these lots would have access to 95th Street. Currently in the county, he's zoned RUR, and the minimum lot size in that zoning district in the county is 10 acres. So the county couldn't allow him to do that. Also, the county's the septic system regulations in the county are different from ours. So as a result of both of those things, he wants to come into the city, rezone it to a city zoning district, and be able to build another structure here on one of those lots. So there's an existing barn structure there, There's an existing house. The existing house would stay, and a new home would be constructed on the new lot. So the annexation request is tonight. He would have to follow that up with a rezoning from the county zoning to an appropriate city zoning, and then after that will be a lot split, administrative lot split. With that, the annexation, we currently already maintain 95th Street in this section. We already maintain Kill Creek Road. We've annexed to the extreme right-of-way limits to both of those roads, so it wouldn't impact us from that standpoint. It's in the water service territory of Johnson 7, and it will remain that way after annexation. So really, from our direct impact standpoint, the annexation wouldn't cause us any additional expense. So I'll leave it there for questions.
Questions for Mike?
Yeah, so you said that was a landlocked parcel in the back?
Yeah.
How did it occur there was landlocked parcel?
Don't know the history.
Same owner, probably, right?
Yeah, it was the same owner. It was the same owner.
Okay.
I would guess they sold
So-
off the piece to the east and kept the back.
And kept the back. So
You know
then,
what I mean?
when you say that a lot split would have to occur, that would be on that north parcel, but won't you have to do a replat to get rid of the line
so
that separates?
it could be. Our lot split requirements do allow for a lot line adjustment, and so this would be a lot.
Can you do a lot line abatement?
Yeah,
Do they
well,
allow
I don't
for
know
that?
if it's an abatement or an adjustment. So basically, what he wants, there's a lot line here, just north of. Can you see where my cursor?
Yeah,
is? Just north of the house.
but it won't require a replat as part of
No, we
getting rid of that lot line to make it.
That line on its own doesn't really create a problem.
Other than it creates setbacks.
It could, I suppose.
Well, it's not a platted line.
Right. It's a
It's a meets and bounds. Ownership.
Okay, so it's not a defined lot.
It's not
It
a
has
line
a
setback.
line that would then create setbacks in the middle of the
It's a
lot,
line of demarking ownership or separate parcels.
but not a tax parcel.
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
I believe it is the tax
They were-
part. That's what these maps are: tax parcel maps,
So
Well, I just want to make sure that we don't get it into a situation
where you have a property.
where now you have a property line that's got set. Because I don't know whether that'd be a side yard setback or what that would be, but
Right.
we don't want
Well, I'll make a note. We'll
Just be sure that
I'll follow
you
up with that. With
to
the
look
county
into that and make
surveyor.
sure that it,
Because if that's going to cause a problem, I'm sure that is not the owner's intent. So we would do a plat in that situation.
yeah.
So
Just wanna be
let
sure
me
we
follow
account
up
for
on that. I want to make. Yeah.
Okay.
any other questions? Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. We grant that annexation request at 95th and Kill Creek.
I'll second that.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. Danny, are you still there? I'm sorry I didn't ask you.
Yes, I am. That's fine.
Okay.
I'm still here.
All right. Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hannah Michael,
Yes.
Doc,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay.
Do we need to approve an ordinance? Or is there an ordinance to go with that?
Yeah, it's ordinance 2475.
Okay.
I assume that.
She adjusted the
Okay.
motion to that.
He did what I was supposed to do, not what I said.
Okay.
How's that?
Item C, discuss City Hall storm shelter.
Yes, Council, City Hall storm shelter. But before I forget, and because Steve is still in the room, Steve's been working hard on the emergency operation. It's kind of related to the storm shelter, but kind of not. Steve's been working with the county on the emergency operations plan, and I know that Councilman Ritter and Lane have been working with him closely on that. We have the final version of that plan. We're going to ask for your approval at the September 19th meeting. And so we need to know who would want a hard copy of that. We want to get that to you now. It's kind of a lengthy document, so we want to get it to you soon. So who wants a hard copy and who's okay with an electronic version?
I'll take a hard copy.
Electronic.
You three, electronic.
I need
No, I'll take a hard copy, please.
Hard copy.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mayor,
Electronic's fine with me.
Danny, would you prefer hard copy or electronic?
Electronic could be okay.
Okay. Okay. So we'll get those to you tomorrow, electronically tomorrow, and Laura, we'll put it on in your box, a hard copy, and we'll put a hard copy in Kevin Ritter's box as well. Okay. Thanks for that. So on to item 4C then. In June, we had the discussion. I think Linda Lane came to the council meeting because the week before, we'd had a planning commission meeting during the tornado warning for the tornado that came through Lawrence and Linwood. And it really drove home the need for a community shelter. We had people show up, 20 or 30 people show up that night. And I completely agree. So staff's been looking into the issue. So we've worked with in-house staff and the fire department and sheriff's office to see how we could go about making the hallway in the lower level of this building into a community shelter. And so there were several areas we wanted to look into. The first was the legal question. We had questions whether that would open us up to some liability if a tornado hit and somebody got hurt, or if by chance the door didn't open or something happened. And Patrick's looked into that, and he's basically concluded that the legal liability isn't a serious concern. It's not a reason to stop us from doing this. The main problem we had, because we have a history, it had been used as a community shelter in the past, but we stopped doing it because of after-hours access issues. If city staff isn't here, who unlocks the door? Well, it had been the fire department, but when the Northwest Consolidated took over, we just quit doing it. So we had that discussion with the fire department again and with the police, and their answer was kind of the same. They're more than willing to do it, but they can't promise they'll be available 100% of the time. If they have other calls or something bad's going on, they might not be here. So the best idea we came up with, I think it's a workable idea, is to have a keypad entry installed at the ADA door here, just the door just east of the main city hall doors. And the keypad would have signage above it to call 911 if you need entrance during a tornado. They call 911 and the dispatcher has the code, and the dispatcher lets them in by the code. And then after they type the code in, they come in, the door stays open for several hours, the duration of the storm event. And then the next morning we changed the code. So that was the idea, and we called the 911 dispatch center. They're okay with that, to have that in their file, as information that they could give out. The drawbacks to that are that it's quite possible that nobody with any of the emergency responders or any of the city staff or anybody involved with the city would be there to monitor those people who are taking shelter during that time. But we discussed this item specifically in June, and my reaction is I think that's a risk I'm willing to take. That people seeking shelter from a tornado aren't going to go ransack the building and break windows and cause mischief. It would give an added emphasis to make sure that the doors that are supposed to be locked at City Hall get locked at the end of each day. If they can access the bottom hallway, there's certain areas they could get to, but if the doors are all locked, then there's areas that they can't. Offices and computers and this room here, it could be locked up. So if the council, and I think the sentiment was, at least back in June, that we're in general kind of in agreement with that it's important enough to provide this shelter that we're willing to take that risk. The next area that we talked about was safety, and generally just the whether that area down there is sufficiently safe during a tornado. So I kind of charged Steve with finding that out, and he prepared a written report that I've attached to your staff report. Basically, building codes and FEMA guidelines, he's concluded that the bottom hallway is an appropriate refuge area for a storm shelter. And that's kind of the terminology, appropriate refuge area. We didn't do a detailed structural analysis and a computer tornado analysis on the building, but we're relatively comfortable that it's inappropriate for a storm shelter. He did set a maximum occupancy at 150 people, and Steve had some recommendations for signage, fire suppression, and what else was it? Oh, emergency lighting and a first aid kit immediately before we open it up as a shelter to provide that. And then long term, we think we need some bathrooms down there. There's a bathroom at the bottom of the steps on the west end that could be renovated to accommodate that. That's not an absolute requirement to open it up as a shelter. So that could be a long-term item. So in terms of cost, Jay got some cost on the keypad entry system. It looks like the cost of that's going to be about $2,200, and the rest of the components maybe another couple grand. So I think we can get this done for less than $5,000 if that's the direction the council wants to proceed. So that's our recommendation, and happy to answer any questions you might have about that. So moving forward, we would go ahead and implement those initial recommendations, and then just get the word out, to the public, and make sure that the community knows that that's a resource that's available. So, have any discussion or questions?
Questions for Mike? Or
I have one.
Sure, Danny, go ahead.
Is there any way to secure that elevator at that time too, that can be inoperative?
Yeah, Danny, we can and do lock the elevator out. So there's a key you can lock the elevator to the bottom floor, and currently it's because it's the ADA entrance to City Hall. It accesses the bottom floor and the main floor at City Hall, but it can't access the second floor. We have to have a key to unlock that. What we'd have to do if it's a storm shelter is on a daily basis lock it so it just stays at the bottom. We'll have to do that each day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it could have access to the main floor during the office hours, and then after office hours it doesn't go up at all. That's what we do.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm kind of concerned that if there was a tornado, the 150 occupants probably rule wouldn't probably get enforced greatly. I mean, if, not that it's a bad thing to put it on there, but if you're 151, you're going to go in there, if there's something going on. So I guess, it's okay to have it, but I don't know.
We had the same discussion.
What?
Yeah. I'm not going to kick anybody out.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a. So, the other thing that I was thinking of as you were speaking, Mike, is that at some point in the future, when we do any other upgrades, you could put like a camera down there if we wanted to have security, so that if anything did happen in a negative way, we would be able to, figure out what's going on.
Yeah, good suggestion.
And I think as we're putting the word out about it, I think just real important that, people understand that this is for a tornado and not a place where if there's a thunderstorm and your power's out, we have a generator running it or something like that, because I think that's another issue that that'll be the next thing that will be like, well, do you have that too? So just so it's clear that that's not the case, unless it is the case. But we want to make sure that, if the power goes out, that people aren't trying to come here, after a tornado thinking that there's going to be, just, when we're telling people, just so those are things that are clear. If the people call and ask questions, that those are the type of things that I would think that they would be kind of thinking of, as far as if you're going to a shelter place, like having a generator, electricity, mainly for people who are on oxygen or on, whatever. But otherwise, I think it's a good idea. So nothing wrong with what was done. It's great. Just a couple ideas to add to it.
Kevin?
Well, maybe build on that a little bit. As I was reading it, I like the whole idea. I think it's something we ought to do. I think it'd be a great community service and a good use of public asset. My thought, though, as I was reading it on the 911 idea, is if we're in a tornado warning and there's a tornado on the ground, my guess is 911 is going to be kind of busy. And to take a call about a code's probably not going to be the most important. You can go to Home Depot and you can buy a door lock that I can change the code on my phone to let the cleaner in or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So can we look at some technology for a keypad system or like a maglock system where it can be the fire department's job at that point to set the code to 111 or whatever, and then the code could be published on the sign because it would only be changed in the event of an emergency. So whether it's the fire department that changes it or the mayor's job, be a good thing for the mayor to do, right? Just to set the code on the storm shelter door. But then all you have to do is change the code back after the event occurs.
Or there are locks you can unlock remotely.
You can just totally unlock it remotely. Yeah, you could just unlock it remotely, and it could be an emergency services, whether it's the sheriff's department or the fire department. You know, they know that in a tornado warning to unlock the storm shelter. And then reinforcing Lori's idea about the camera, you could also have remote visibility to that camera as well, so that you can see how many that you do have people there or don't have people there, or what the issue is. So I'd look into a little of that technology versus the 911 approach, but whatever works.
Have we investigated the 911? Had the conversations with the 911 folks? And
yes,
so.
We have, and they were comfortable with it. That they could take the call, they could have the code, they could give the code.
Yeah, just an idea.
Yeah, great idea.
You're basically saying now that if there is a tornado warning going on, it could just automatically be unlocked.
Somebody would have to.
True. I mean, whatever button operates sirens
without somebody having to get there and have it unlocked, instead of somebody having to get there and try to do the whole.
And they're panicking.
I mean, that could be a panic situation too, and just everything. So it could be a situation that if there's a warning, the door is unlocked, and then
because if it's on a maglock, then you don't have to worry about a latch or anything like that. It's just.
What do you think about that, Steve? You're kind of over there squirmishing a little bit.
You got to come up here to the podium, Steve. If you could. Danny can't hear you otherwise. Sorry.
The problem with dealing with the fire and the police agencies, they can't guarantee that they're going to be able to be there to unlock it. They could be busy, and that's where the whole issue of putting the onus on the emergency services to have to unlock that wouldn't work. And that's why we were looking for a system that kind of left them out of it, so that we could have a guarantee that when we contacted through that keypad, that the 911 dispatcher is going to be there and just give them the code.
Well, in the event of a remotely operated one, they wouldn't have nobody would actually have to be there to unlock it. You could unlock it from wherever you are.
Who would unlock it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Whoever.
There's the problem.
Yeah.
And it
wouldn't have to be somebody here, though.
Then you're going to have to have somebody 24/7, 365 that's available. And that 911 dispatch center, the ECC, is available in that.
But they wouldn't have to be available here.
Because they're
it's done remotely from the ECC. They give them the code and they let them in. It's done.
But without a code, there's technology, plenty of it. Because at the church I work at, I can unlock any door. Right now, I can open up an app, and I can unlock any door in that building.
That's good.
To where
there's no problem. I understand that. But who's going to unlock it? There's the thing.
But at that point, if there's a tornado warning, can our city emergency management person log in?
Well, that's me. Yes, I live here in the city, and I am the emergency
manager or something.
But
because at that point,
there's only 3 of us, city employees, that live in the city of DeSoto.
But you wouldn't have to live here.
You could be in Kentucky and do it.
I understand. Yeah, but
you would have to know that the
that's what I'm wondering.
warning was going on.
Wouldn't it be the fire department? Because you always have somebody on staff, on duty.
But if they're on a call, or if maybe they're on mutual aid over in Lenexa.
Let's have that discussion with the 911 dispatch.
We can do that
because I think there are foolproofs in that system that we wouldn't have otherwise. You
That's
can't
the
just
reason
get
to
one
do
of these
it.
things on Amazon and know that it's gonna 100% of the time. But literally, if it's the same button that sounds the tornado alarm, also happens to unlock, maybe it's as simple as that. that they only have. Let's have that discussion.
Well, we can look
Because I think
at the emergency operations, the civil defense folks out there, and the EOC.
Yeah.
It might be possible to tie it to the alarm, the siren alarms when they go off and unlocks.
that's the kind of thing that because they've got foolproofs and
We hadn't
full
looked at that. Now that's another option where if the sirens are activated, it'll unlock the door.
Right.
And I can call Carrie tomorrow on that.
Yeah, let's look into that a little bit.
Yeah, that may work better.
I mean, if not, the 911 call isn't a bad idea. It's
Right.
just that, like, it's just how
Yeah.
busy are they going to be tied up with a lot of calls? That's,
Right.
I don't know. I've never called 911 during a tornado, but I imagine there's a lot of calls. Just that would be the
They're
only
pretty well
concern. I think. Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
So whatever works.
Okay, what do we need to authorize you to spend the money, or you want to wait
Well,
till you get a little more information?
let's have this discussion first, because it kind of depends on it depends on what type of entry system. So
Actually,
let
it's
us.
below your spending level anyway.
Yeah,
right?
it would
So,
be right.
you don't really.
So let's close that loop, and then we'll come back with you.
Okay.
on that.
Item D, consider resolution regarding sidewalk requirements for Oak Country subdivision.
Yes, Council, you'll remember we had this discussion a couple of council meetings ago, and as a result of that, we invited the neighbors of the subdivision to an informational meeting. We had that a couple weeks ago here in this room. That meeting was very well attended. The neighbors are very interested in the subject. Mayor, you were there, and I think Rob, are you there?
Rob was there.
You
Which
were
one?
At the neighbor meeting
Yes.
on the sidewalks. Yeah.
Yes.
We really had a really good discussion. We learned some things that we didn't know before. Most importantly, that the sidewalk agreement that the city struck with the developer in 2008, it was filed with the county, but it was filed in a way that may not have been indexed appropriately for a title company to find it when the property changes hands. So as a result of that, the new owners of the lots, the sidewalk agreement was not included in their title work. We didn't realize that before. So as a result of that, Patrick, after having that discussion with the County Register of Deeds, realizing that these people, if it came to a head and we administered the letter of the agreement, and a new owner came in to get a building permit that was denied based on the fact that we have this agreement and the sidewalk isn't in, we would think that owner would have a pretty good standing in a lawsuit against the city, because it wasn't in his title work, and so he shouldn't be obligated to the terms and conditions of that agreement. So because of that, we've arrived at a solution we think addresses most of the issues, would clear up the situation with the filing of the agreement, and also keep the burden on the initial developer, who still owns one lot in the subdivision. So attached to the staff report, you have a resolution that lines this concept out, but essentially what it is, and I sent a letter to the owners. I know several of the owners are here in attendance tonight. This letter that I sent to them at the end of August kind of lines out the concept here. Basically, what we're saying is that any new owner of any lot, when you apply for a building permit, if you can show within your title work did not include the sidewalk agreement, the council was authorized the building official to go ahead and issue that permit. Except for, the one exception would be the one lot that the developer still owns, because obviously the developer knew about the agreement from the beginning. So that concept is memorialized in the resolution that you have tonight. One thing that is still technically there is this question of whether or not the city would ever form a benefit district to install the sidewalk. That is left unresolved. That would be up to the discretion of this council or a future council. So essentially that's it. And Patrick, if you have anything to add or subtract from what I said, please do so. I know, like I said, I know there's a couple of owners here in attendance tonight. So I'll
Sure.
stop there.
Just the way the resolution is drafted would indicate someone wanting a building permit would need to not only show that their title work is not ticked. The county office said that it would just depend on how the title company did their search, that they thought, most title companies do a search beyond just the individual lot number. They would do it against the entire legal description. But in addition to it not showing up in the title work, the applicant would have to show that they were not otherwise aware of the agreement, because the developers indicated that on some of the lots, it say which ones, but after a certain period, they started making that disclosure as part of the marketing of the lot. So obviously in that case, the agreement would still be binding on the lot owner. Because this whole thing about the recording is just, the law says your notice is imputed to you if recorded against your lot, and that even if you never read your title before, the law would say you're on notice. Actual notice sort of solves all that. If you're on actual notice of the agreement, then you're bound by the agreement. So just wanted to clarify that it's not simply submitting title work and that's not listed in there. It could also be showing that you're unaware of the time of buying the lot.
Okay. Have we heard from any of the owners of the built on lots since you sent this communication?
No, not direct. Well, I did hear from one that said that I think the matter of the future benefit district still kind of being out there was still seemed unresolved. But no, I know there are several here in the audience, but I haven't heard from anybody else.
Okay.
Patrick, you did hear from the developer.
Yeah, I got a call today from Harris. Still doesn't like the fact that this last lot is tied up, but he understands that's just the way it is, because I already re-recorded the agreement, so even if he were to sell that lot to a different owner, the question now is not only against the description, but also each individual lot. So that last lot is we don't have any input from that, but it just is. He can't get a building until the sidewalk is installed. So, which probably means a lot will just never be built on. It's practical.
So, along those lines, I have a question for you. Assuming one of the other vacant lots, for whatever reason, the current owner who was not aware wishes to sell that lot to another party and have them build a structure on that. Obviously, then that's going to go through a new set of title work. This agreement then would show up. Are we going to deny a building permit on that transfer?
That would be the thought, that really this resolution is simply addressing those people that came to the meeting and said, we knew nothing about this.
Yeah.
Because, and I know but if you bought the lot knowing of the agreement, it was something that the previous owner did, but we have many of these same types of agreements. It's just part of buying property. You're bound by it. So yes, a future there's a transfer before a building permit is issued, then that future owner would be restricted under this agreement.
So it looks like this is a good way to overcome all the notice issues or the fact that it didn't show up on title report issues. And so I'm good with all that. But are we any closer at all to getting the sidewalk built? It doesn't sound like it if you just talked to Lee today or very recently.
I mean, I did share the possibility that the council, may want to direct me to file legal action, in court, where the court would, enter an order ordering the sidewalk to be built. But obviously, it would only be against the LLC, and probably the only asset of the LLC is this one last lot, which is worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000, so about half the cost. So, again, we come back to this sidewalk was part of the original approval. So you really, legally, you can't just wipe it off. I mean, it's there. And by doing what we're doing, it's deferring it.
It was a bit of a favor. I mean, it was a favor at the time.
Yeah.
And now we're stuck with them not following through.
So, I think the developer just can't get over the fact that, look, nobody wants this sidewalk. Why you got, why don't you just...
But had he built it to begin, I mean, we can go around. Had he built it to begin with, it'd all been there, and they'd all used it.
So, and I explained to him that maybe invited him, if you want to have your own lawyer, weigh in on that. But I'm confident that, legally speaking, I think his point is that, well, who's going to enforce that? Who cares? Like if the city just, wiped it off the book, so to speak, who's going to sue or do anything about that? And I just told him that's just not something we can do, so.
But it doesn't resolve all the issues, but I guess it would provide some relief to someone who's the next guy to get a permit. Those that are in line to finish up or start their homes that haven't already. Any other thoughts? I don't know. What's our
Action item?
we would adopt this resolution if we chose to do that, which would provide these protections for those lots that haven't been built on other than the one by the developer, provided that
If we don't adopt the resolution, then we're back to the drawing board at trying to find some way to work with the residents, and or some of the residents may or may not be able to start drawing permits if that last lot sells and that permit pulls.
Right. Yeah, I think depending on how the permits shake out, it would depend on who would get a permit and who wouldn't. It could happen that it would work out so that everybody could get a permit, right? I think if the last interior lot permit was held off till the very last lot, then all the lots would be built on.
But that last interior lot has sold, right?
Yeah, it is sold.
Yeah. So there's a time frame on that. But we did not hear back from any of the residents after that have the empty lots after the letter was sent out, really, other than the one.
No, but the letter was just sent out last on the 30th, so it hasn't been slipped in less than.
Yeah, so the resolution really, and it kind of also applies to the developer's lot. It's simply saying, look, if you didn't have notice of this agreement, it happens with the developer. Clearly, he knew of the agreement. Or somebody sells to he didn't have notice of the agreement. sounds like there are others. Couldn't say. But it still doesn't address the sort of inequities, I guess, that we're discussing today.
Well, it's a burden on the property that some maybe wasn't aware of. That might have changed their purchasing decision.
What resolution number would it be?
aware of the sidewalk issues. Of course, when this came up, we were definitely one of those individuals that wanted to come and listen and understand. And I know Chad has done a great job of stipulating everything for us. So we are now in the process of trying to finish up our blueprints so we can possibly get a permit. And now we're kind of at a race against time. And I definitely like what you guys are trying to do with the resolution. But what does concern me about that is the wording in that, whereas I've got to prove above and beyond my title paperwork. Because you're saying the developer said that they started disclosing that, and we were never made aware of that as of August of 2014, because we were very adamant about checking homeowners associations and the kind of rules, grievances, and anything that we might face, because that was the struggle we had when we were looking to purchase land. And that's why we chose the law that we did within the city limits of DeSoto, and now we're finding out all this stuff down the road. If we would build Right, so as of August of 2014, we are one of the exterior lots and one of the interior lots. We were never made aware of that as of August. So, of course, the developer's telling you that, yeah, we did start disclosing it, but he can't tell you who he did and when. So, right, but, because I see the paper, but the title paper, but you guys also have the wording in there that I have to kind of go above and beyond to prove that. I don't know what that proof would be. Because I could say here all day that he never told me, he could say that all day he did. So, of course, just hearsay. But yeah, that's just our concern is because I like what you guys are trying to do and hold the developer accountable for that last parcel, which I'm perfectly fine with. It's just that concern about our paperwork, our checklist, and that stuff. We double check with our listing agent, with our buying agent that helped us with the whole purchase. So we're just hoping that we can build. Because as it stands right now, if you guys do pass it, I'm sitting on a very expensive piece of property that I'm paying taxes on that I can't sell unless someone wants to put a nice sidewalk in. So thank you.
My name is Hank Brain. I live at 9197 Scott Drive. I have several questions. I can ask them all. The resolution references subdivisions 8 and 9. Where is it? Subdivision 9? That was confusing. Next question, is it common practice to allow developers and builders to walk away from their obligations, the initial obligations that they agreed to?
No, it's not, and it will be less common now. It was an idea in 2009, 2008. It was a very difficult economic time in the building world, and it was a decision. I was on the council back then, regretting my decision right now to allow this to happen. But the idea was that it would allow him to, the developer, to sell a few lots and get some housing and some sales under his belt before he had to undertake the expense of building the sidewalks. So it was the city trying to work with the developer in a difficult economic time because the subdivision was languishing, no sales.
Well, I think common practice is that expenditures that are for future expenses are put in escrow. Is there a reason that that was not a requirement for this monies to be?
The method for residential construction, the typical operation for building sidewalks is once the house is constructed, the sidewalk is constructed on the lot. And that's on smaller lots, it's typically a responsibility of the individual homeowner, which should have been the criteria. Well, there was any requirement in the plat that all sidewalks in the subdivision be constructed by the developer. It was just so it was just, we were simply allowing him to sell
bought my lot in 2015. Consequently, I talked to the developer or builder about constructing my home, and nothing was ever mentioned either in the title work or by the builder themselves about sidewalks. So I was totally caught off guard by this sudden expense that, as a retired person on a fixed income, that's kind of going to be a tough one to bite off for the next 15 years. I guess
It's true by virtue of this agreement, you know, your predecessor waived the right to protest that benefit district, but it's council decided.
there would still be a cost that all the homeowners would have to come up with. Well, in the near future, with all properties within the city without sidewalks, will they be forced also to pay for sidewalks on their properties so that subdivisions like the one under consideration here tonight will not just have sidewalks leading to nowhere?
Our subdivision requires, regulations require sidewalks in all of our subdivisions. Any new subdivision will be required to construct sidewalks. We are also planning to spend a significant amount of money extending trails and sidewalks throughout the cities to improve connectivity and
As of right now, there would be no connecting sidewalks to our subdivision. That's one of the reasons most of us don't care to have it at all. Yeah, but the majority of the neighbors don't care to have a sidewalk. Those are just three thoughts.
Thank you. Well, I don't know that you're affected by it, so I was letting the property owner speak to it, giving deference to those that own lots out there. Are you a lot owner or property? Yes. So
Good evening. I'm Jared McGinnis, 9159 Scott Drive. We purchased our property in August 2015. We're not yet aware of any of it. Two items. First, thank you for even considering this. I know, and having the meeting could have been pushed aside, ignored, swept under the rug, whatever. So, thank you for allowing us to gather a couple weeks ago and come here again this evening under consideration. One question would be, for those of us that already have a home, what about a building permit for outbuilding? How would that be? Thank you.
Last comment, making a motion to adopt the resolution. Having been at that meeting, it was a very simple meeting. It was very orderly. Residents made very good points. And I believe this is a good balance of resolution to try and at least address the inequities that were there, while at the same time, like Patrick said tonight, not being able to wipe away the sidewalk, but at least address some of the concerns that were there. We still have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion.
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on. Number E, consider bids for the 2019 CDBG sidewalk project.
All right, thank you, Council. What you have before you is our Community Development Block Grant project for 2019 is actually a sidewalk extension along 83rd Street, beginning at basically Engineered Air where our current trail ends. It will extend along the right-of-way on 83rd Street, and we've actually configured it to that we will put Jersey barriers and some decorative fencing along the bridge and create a pedestrian path in that area, and then cross back over to city-owned property on the east side of 83rd Street, and then ultimately tie in on Valley Springs Drive as shown. We submitted this project to the county for consideration with the CDB grant funding. We initially estimated about $150,000 in cost. We assumed that in past grants we've gotten about half of what we've asked for, and we actually got a little bit more than $75,000. So we do have the balance of this project in budgeted. We would have to come up with a little bit more, maybe $9,000 to $10,000 to cover the cost for this project. Just real quickly, we do have there will be crossing markers similar to what we have up at the school and the Dollar General as far as at the Valley Springs crossing there. So we will have plenty of safety built into this project. There is room on the bridge for narrowing the markings to allow for pedestrian crossing. It is only going to be 5 feet at that point, but the rest of the trail is going to be 8 feet wide. With that, we bid this. Milburn Engineering put together the plans and specifications. We only had 2 bidders. I thought we might have a few more than that, but the low bid was USA Concrete at $163,259. We have spoken with the company that the owner of the company for USA Concrete, and they're willing to get started as soon as we're able to process and move forward with this. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Was this in line with our estimate of cost, our engineer's estimate?
Yeah, we were thinking around $150,000 basically. Now we haven't been putting the practice together of our engineer's estimate and reading that as part of our bid opening. Yeah. But what we initially budgeted was $150,000 for this project.
And then I half heard and half didn't hear. Did you say we would have a flash beacon at the crossing, or?
Yeah, it's not the hawk signalization.
But we'll have the rectangular rapid flashing beacon like
yes.
we have it. So in addition to the pavement markings, we'll have the.
Correct.
And that's part of the.
And that's in.
That is included in this price. Yes.
Along the bridge, the divider fencing or whatever that's on the bridge, that's part of this also.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it's a complete project.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the CDBG contract to U.S. Concrete to complete the sidewalk project on the 83rd Street in an amount not to exceed $163,259.
I'll second the bid or motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Bids for fence.
Yes, Council, we have been slowly working through the project out of the water distribution building at 95th and Sunflower. You may have noticed we did get the parking lot paved this week, so we are making progress. One of the last big ticket items, if not the last big ticket item, is the fencing for this property. We solicited bids. I contacted 4 companies. One declined to submit something. One of the bids I actually got was early February, and I contacted them several times, asked them to update their bid. They declined to do so, so I didn't include them in your packet. But the ones we have are from Denton Enterprises and then Challenger Fencing. Actually, Challenger was the most responsive of the group and actually did engage, come out to the site, look at it. Felt confident in their abilities to do the job. They're ready to start as soon as we can. Once again, as soon as we can process this. Pretty simple, straightforward project, but would recommend that you accept the bid from Challenger Fencing in an amount not to exceed $31,600. Just to aside, we are going to have a card reader on that with cards, so we will be able to monitor who comes in and out of that location. It won't just be a key and a padlock like we've unfortunately done in the past. So we're starting to move up a little bit in our abilities for security and accessibility.
Questions for Brad on the fencing bid? Not a motion, please.
I'll make a motion. We accept the bid with Challenger Fencing in the amount of $31,600.
Second. All right. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hunamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Next item. Consider adoption of the comprehensive plan.
All right, thank you, Council. This has been a long process. We started in the spring of 2018 and worked through a significant public involvement process, completed a joint meeting with the City Council and Planning Commission. And then we also went by chapter from the Planning Commission to the City Council, and we kind of staggered those back and forth as we moved through this process as far as making sure both bodies had significant input in the ultimate comprehensive plan for 2019. We did present this at a public hearing last meeting at the Planning Commission. The minutes from that meeting are included in your packet tonight. Also, you have a certification that is part of the adoption of the comprehensive plan process, that the document that you were reviewing is the same exact document that the Planning Commission reviewed at their August 27th meeting. One thing I did want to comment a little bit on is there's a fair amount of comments from the public on this. Now, as you know, that was also the evening that we had the Sims rezoning application on our agenda, so some of it sort of blurred together as far as people wanting to get up and talk about the potential rezoning from the county's RUR to light industrial. So as you probably noted that in the minutes that were in your packet. Ultimately, after talking with the Planning Commission that evening and the comment that they did get, the comments that they received from public that evening, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to accept the document and forward it on to City Council for approval. And according to statute, it's very similar to a rezoning. You have the options to approve the document, override the Planning Commission by a supermajority, or return the with your changes, or may return the document back to the Planning Commission for additional consideration. At this point, with the amount of public input we've had, staff reading, reviewing, revising the document, the joint meetings we've had, the presentations we've made to the City Council, our recommendation is to adopt the 2019 Comprehensive Plan as presented. With that, I will stand for any questions that you all may have.
What's the cycle for re-examining what we think? Once we adopt this, when will the planning commission pick this up again? 2 years, 5 years?
Well, actually, it's an annual basis.
Statutory is annual review.
Okay.
Comprehensive plan is to be reviewed annually.
Yeah, no, that's correct. It's reviewed annually. It's not like it has to be rewritten annually.
No, but
it does need
but
to
it
be.
would mean that a report would be given to the city council that no changes are recommended. So it's
Correct.
been reviewed and
Yes.
yeah, but it's by statute annually.
Okay. Questions from anyone else? Have we paid the consultant everything that they are doing? Are we still
Yes.
holding $50?
No, I think we paid.
Yeah, we've paid him
A while back.
I will make a motion to adopt the 2019 comprehensive plan as presented.
I will second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
All
Motion
right.
carries.
Thank you, Brad. Next item, executive session. We do not have any.
Correct.
No.
Okay, advisory reports, Mike.
Yeah, just one thing, council. I didn't mention. I'm glad Whitney stuck around here till the end. I didn't mention another one of her functions is event planning to help us out with those sorts of things. So that includes the 4th of July fireworks. That includes the summer concert series and ribbon cuttings as they may occur throughout time. And I know we've been remiss. I've been remiss in ribbon cuttings associated with big projects throughout my career, and I'll apologize for that. But we're going to make up for it. We've got Whitney planning a kind of a threefold ribbon cutting event for our new public works facility, for the water distribution building, and for the improvements out of the water treatment plant. We're targeting that just because of getting Whitney's feet on the ground and some stuff we want to really finish up at the water treatment plant for September 27th. So that's the last Friday of this month. It just kind of, as a tentative date, I think I'd like to make that a hard date. Fridays are best because there's no remediation that's going on at the sunflower plant on Fridays. Contractor doesn't work out there. So our thought is to kind of have a bus tour, maybe rent a bus or rent a few vans or something to tour out there, cut a ribbon or two out there, head to the distribution building at the water tower plant, cut a ribbon there, and then the big party would be at the public works facility. The street department, right now we're cleaning the facility. We've had it painted. There's some other tweaks we'd like to do before we move in. But the street department's looking at moving in later this month, probably into October. So they probably won't even be moved in by the ribbon cutting. But that's the plan. So if anybody is unavailable that day, let us know. Otherwise, we're thinking late afternoon, 4, maybe 5. Maybe we could even go into the evening. We'll just see where everybody's schedule lies with that. Okay. Does that sound good, Whitney? Can we make that all happen? Okay. All right. And that was it.
That's all you got?
That's all I have, unless there's questions.
All right, questions for Mike? All right.
Thank you.
Patrick, anything for us tonight?
Nothing for me.
Brad?
Well, I'm glad you wanted to get back. I know we talked about the second. Signs are going up.
Perfect.
Okay. Council comments. Danny, you want to start anything for the council tonight?
Just one thing there. I wanted to thank the city and all the people that worked so hard on the Soto days and made it such a success. I know they went above and beyond all departments, and I want to say also congratulations to Cameron and his achievements that he has so far, and welcome Whitney aboard. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Danny. Kevin?
I'll pick up on the comments about DeSoto days. Just giving feedback that I heard from people around. I think folks really loved the the situation that we ended up in with it being downtown. When I walked through it, it was vibrant and a lot going on. So I think it turned out really, really well. I'll have to think hard about what we do in the future. So a lot of really good comments. About the only one I heard was constructive wise was a little bit better street lighting on the streets going to the south. Coming back to the parking lot at City Hall would have been a little temporary lighting would have been nice along the streets, but it seemed real interesting in how we could maybe incorporate what goes on, say, with the car show, with some of the other activities down in that area. But I've just heard nothing but positive feedback about it.
Thank you. Anything else? Lori?
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Rob?
Two things, just adding to the DeSoto Days. I've long wanted to see something downtown, whether it be Cinco de Mayo, whether it be one of the summer concert series. This isn't the way I saw it happening. I am very disappointed that I was sick and didn't get up there to see it at all. But I have only heard extremely positive comments back about the venue and how it went. And so I was excited that it actually came together and worked. Also, it's nice to see 91st Street project continuing to move forward. Noticing that the sidewalks are being cut in on Lexington Avenue to the stoplight by Commerce and Lexington. So nice seeing the progress of things that we've been looking forward to and wanting to see done happening and things progressing.
Okay. I have, maybe three things real quick. The first thing is I was presented an opportunity by an exchange, the organization that finds host families for exchange students, and they have a student from Peru that's in a temporary housing situation that needs to live in the DeSoto area. So I said I would announce that, and I have contact information for the coordinator for that, but they're looking for, he's placed right now, but it's in a temporary situation just for after his arrival. So that's an opportunity out there. The second was the NAACP Freedom Fund Banquet for Johnson County. I still have 2 tickets for that. Mike, I do. Kevin, I have 2 tickets for that. And then the last is kind of a general discussion topic or something to think about. We get not inundated, but a number of requests for proclamations from different organizations. So I've got one pending from the, I think it's maybe SNAP for Claren, the last week of September, Diaper Week. So there's a Diaper Week. I just wanted to get the council's feelings on a number of proclamations. Do we want any criteria for how we want to weigh requests to make proclamations? You trust my judgment to bring forward the ones that are deemed appropriate, or?
I trust the mayor's judgment.
Okay. All right. And that's all I got.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Oh.
Okay, we're done, Danny. Thank you for hanging in there with us.
Okay, thank you.